find yourself at a party, right? You're surrounded by people, music's playing, and you just feel your energy tanking. And then you get the labels, right? Antisocial, shy, maybe even rude. But what if that pull to be alone? What if it isn't a flaw at all? What if it's actually a sign of a really different, really powerful kind of mind at work? Sound familiar? That feeling of just counting the seconds until you can slip away, find a quiet spot, and just breathe. Just think for a minute. Well, listen, you are definitely not alone in wanting to be alone. And it turns out psychology has a pretty fascinating explanation for it. So, right off the bat, we need to completely reframe this conversation. Look, this isn't about being antisocial or broken. Not at all. It's about having a different kind of brain wiring. Think of it like a mind that's geared for really deep internal processing. And that kind of mind just needs quiet to really hit its stride. All right, so our first point really gets to the heart of this wiring. And honestly, this is a concept that might completely change how you think about your own brain. Let's dive into what psychologists call hyperconnective. Okay, so what is hyperconnectivity? Well, it basically means your mind doesn't work in a straight line. It's not linear. When you hear a simple comment in a conversation, your brain doesn't just see it as one little piece of information. Nope. It instantly explodes into this huge web of connections, patterns, possible outcomes, related memories, the whole thing. And that, right there, is the core of the problem. When your mind is in the middle of weaving this incredible, complex web of ideas, something like small talk, it's not just boring, it's a genuine interruption. It literally slams the brakes on that deep processing and forces your high-performance mental engine down into first gear, a gear it was never built for. And that's exactly why solitude can feel so amazing. It's not really about avoiding people. It's about giving your mind the open runway it needs to take off, to roam freely across all those connections and, actually finish a thought for once. Okay, let's move on to our second big idea, because it builds directly on this. See, it's not just about what's happening inside your head. It's also about the absolutely massive amount of energy you're spending just processing the world around you. There is a very real mental price you pay for paying attention. For you, when you're in a conversation, you're not just passively listening to the words. No way. You're decoding everything. The tiny shifts in tone, the emotions they're not saying out loud, the little flaws in their logic, all the stuff that just flies over most people's heads. You're not just in the conversation. You're analyzing it in real time. There's actually a name for this skill. It's called active observation. And just like any high-level skill, it is incredibly draining. It's the mental equivalent of you running a full-on sprint while everyone else is just casually strolling along. Of course, it's going to burn through your energy reserves way, way faster. And this is what that feels like. After maybe an hour of that intense social decoding, your mental battery just plummets. It feels like you're running on fumes, maybe 15% left in the tank. You're just done. You have to recharge. And listen, it's not because you're broken. It's because your brain just finished the equivalent of a crazy intense workout. Which, of course, brings us directly to our third point, the absolute soul-crushing agony of small talk. I mean, if your brain is this powerful machine wired for depth and complexity, then all those little surface-level social rituals, they just feel like a colossal waste of that precious mental energy, don't they? And the key thing to understand here is that it's all about the type of interaction, not just interaction in general. You're not against talking to people. You crave meaningful conversation, digging into shared ideas, getting to a real understanding. But things like forced parties or networking events, a lot of the time they deliver the exact opposite of that. And let's be clear, this has nothing to do with loneliness. It is a deliberate, strategic choice. You're basically filtering for quality over quantity. You would much rather have one deep, real connection than 100 surface-level acquaintances. And who wouldn't? Okay, so we've talked a lot about why social stuff can be so draining. But let's flip the script for a second. What about the other side of the coin? Let's talk about why solitude is so unbelievably productive. Because this is where your mind really, truly comes alive. See, it's a very active process. That silence isn't just empty space. It's step one. It's what activates that deep thinking mode. And once you're in that mode, step two, your brain's creative networks can finally start connecting all those different ideas. And that's where the breakthroughs happen. That's step three. So you got to understand, for a mind that's wired like this, solitude isn't downtime, it's prime time. It is a moment when your brain is finally free from all the noise, all the interruptions, and it can do the heavy lifting, the creative work it was literally designed to do. And our final point kind of ties this all together. A huge reason you're so comfortable, so at home in solitude, is because your sense of self-worth, it just doesn't depend on what other people are thinking. It's coming from somewhere else entirely. There's a term for this too. Psychologists call it low social dependency. And it just means your validation comes from the inside, not the outside. You're measuring yourself against your own standards, which are probably pretty high. You just don't need that constant feed of likes or applause to know your own value. And because you have that inner security, being alone isn't lonely. It's fascinating. Seriously, your own thoughts, your own projects, your own ideas, they are genuinely more interesting and more stimulating to you than the chatter in a crowded room. So look, if you have ever felt weird or out of place because you crave quiet, I want you to remember this. You're not strange. You're not broken. You are almost certainly just wired for deeper, more complex thinking. And a mind like that needs the right environment to really shine. So the real question to ask yourself isn't, why can't I be more social? The real question is this. What incredible idea, what brilliant solution, what life-changing breakthrough is waiting for you right now in that quiet you so deeply crave?